I sat at the long wooden table, staring at the birthday cake in front of Eric. The candles flickered as everyone laughed and drank. It was Eric's 36th birthday. His mother, Vivian, had made it clear that she was the queen of the evening. She sat at the head of the table like it was her throne, wine glass in hand, earrings swinging as she talked louder than everyone else. To my left, Rachel, Eric's younger sister, was busy taking selfies with the cake I paid for. She hadn't contributed a cent, but she made sure her Instagram followers knew how perfect the evening was. Eric, my husband, grinned as he reached for another slice of roast chicken. "This is nice, huh?" he whispered to me. I nodded with a small smile. But inside, I felt completely alone. It was always like this, me doing the work, them enjoying the credit. I had worked all week, came home early to help cook, even paid for the decorations and groceries. And yet not one thank you. Vivian raised her glass. "To my wonderful son," she said proudly. "Strong, handsome, and smart." She glanced at me briefly, her lips twitching in that fake smile she always used. The others cheered. I stayed quiet. I was picking at my food when she leaned back in her chair, laughing at something Rachel had said about quitting another job. Then suddenly, she turned to me. Her voice rose above the chatter. "So, Nina," she said loudly, with a smirk that made my stomach twist. "What's it like being a failure?" The room froze. Everyone laughed. Eric laughed. Rachel burst out laughing so hard she choked on her drink. I didn't. I looked at Vivian. I could hear forks clinking. Someone coughed awkwardly. I placed my napkin down slowly and smiled. A calm, quiet smile, the kind that made Vivian blink. I leaned forward just slightly and said, clearly, "What's it like knowing this failure won't be paying your bills anymore?" Dead silence. Vivian's face turned pale like she'd seen a ghost. Her wine glass trembled in her hand. Eric's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Rachel's mouth hung open. I didn't blink. I didn't shout. I just smiled at her, letting the words hang in the air. The room felt ice cold. Vivian tried to laugh it off. "Wait, what do you mean by that?" I looked at my plate. "Exactly what I said." Rachel pushed her chair back. "Are you okay, Nina?" she asked, her voice mocking. "You sound emotional." I ignored her. I had spent years being silent. This time, I wasn't explaining myself. Eric finally spoke. "What are you talking about, Nina?" I met his eyes. I didn't answer. I just picked up my purse, stood up slowly, and tucked in my chair like a polite guest. "I think that's enough birthday for me," I said calmly. Vivian opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. Her hands were shaking. She looked around the room as if someone would defend her, but everyone was frozen. Without another word, I turned and walked toward the door. Every step I took felt like shedding a heavy coat. The air outside was cooler than I expected. For the first time in years, I could hear my own thoughts clearly. And they were saying, "You're done being quiet." It wasn't always like this. When Eric and I first got married, I believed in him more than anyone else. He had big dreams, talked about starting his own tech company, being his own boss. I believed every word. Back then, love made me see him as a visionary, not a man without a plan. I remember when he came home one day, 2 months after our wedding, and told me he had quit his job. "It was toxic," he said. "I need time to breathe, to build something real." I supported him. I told him, "Take the time you need." So I worked double shifts. I picked up extra hours at the office and even cleaned up at a nearby cafe in the evenings. I told myself it was just for a few months, maybe a year. That year became 3, then 5. And now we were heading into our 10th year of marriage, and Eric hadn't worked a single stable job since. I paid for everything, the rent, the utilities, groceries, his phone, his gym membership, even Rachel's tuition, not because I wanted to, but because his mom asked, and Eric said, "She's family. We have to help her." Vivian never thanked me, not once. Instead, she made comments like, "Some women just have that servant's heart, always giving. It's sweet." I'd hear her whisper to her friends, "Nina's the practical one, not very bright, but dependable, like a little mule." I heard all of it, and I stayed quiet. Every Christmas, I bought the tree. I wrapped the gifts and placed her name on them so she could pretend they were from her. Every birthday, I paid for the cake, the food, the gifts, and she'd smile proudly and say, "Look what I got you, Eric." He never corrected her. I told myself, it's okay, one day they'll see, one day they'll thank you. But that day never came. Once, when I came home from work with a migraine so bad I couldn't see straight, I found Vivian sitting on the couch watching a movie, empty dishes on the table, and the smell of burnt popcorn in the air. "Vivian," I said gently, "could you please help clean up a bit when I'm at work?" She blinked at me and smiled. "I thought that was your job, sweetie." Eric didn't say a word. I didn't cry that night, but I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Was love supposed to feel like carrying 10 people on your back while they laughed at you? Was marriage supposed to feel like loneliness with a ring on your finger? And yet, I still cooked, still cleaned, still smiled. Because I told myself, you are the strong one. You are the one holding it all together. But what I didn't realize was this. When people see you doing everything without complaining, they don't call you strong. They call you stupid. Vivian began asking for more. "My roof is leaking. Can you cover it?" "Rachel wants new clothes. She's starting a job interview soon." I paid. I kept paying. I kept smiling. But inside, I was slowly fading. Until one day at work, my boss, Mr. Thompson, called me into his office. I expected him to scold me for being late. I had missed the morning meeting because Eric asked me to drop off his dry cleaning. But instead, he looked at me kindly and said, "Nina, when was the last time someone took care of you?" I didn't know what to say. I went back to my desk and stared at my screen for 10 minutes without moving. That question stuck with me like a needle. When was the last time someone took care of me? That night, I went home, cooked dinner for everyone, and quietly watched as they ate, laughed, and left me with the dishes. And as I stood at the sink, scrubbing plates alone, one quiet thought rose in my chest like smoke. I'm not weak. I'm just tired of pretending this is love. The day everything started to shift began like any other. I woke up at 5:30 a.m., made breakfast for the entire house, ironed Eric's shirt, and slipped out quietly while the others were still in bed. I got to the office early and started going through emails. Mr. Thompson walked in an hour later, smiling as usual. He placed a coffee on my desk, my favorite, hazelnut with a dash of oat milk. "You've been killing it lately, Nina," he said. The board noticed. I smiled politely, unsure of what he meant. He gestured for me to follow him into his office. Inside, he closed the door and handed me a letter. "You're getting promoted," he said. "Senior project manager. Bigger office, better pay, and I'd like you to come with me on a 2-week business trip to Atlanta. You'd be leading the presentations." For a moment, I just stared at him. A promotion? Me? My throat felt tight. I should have felt proud, but all I could think about was, who will cook? Who will pay the internet bill? Who will drive Rachel to her job search? I smiled faintly. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I need to think about it." He didn't pressure me. He simply said, "You deserve to have a life outside of being everyone else's support system." Then he went back to his desk. That sentence followed me home. When I walked through the door, I saw Vivian stretched out on the couch watching a reality show, her feet up on the armrest like she owned the place. Rachel was in the kitchen complaining loudly about her phone charger not working. Eric was in the bedroom, gaming, headphones on. No one asked me how my day went. No one noticed I was late. I placed the promotion letter on the counter and watched as it sat there untouched for hours. No one even glanced at it. The next morning, I brought it up during breakfast. "I was offered a promotion," I said softly. Vivian sipped her tea. "Oh? Will it come with more stress? You already look tired enough." Rachel rolled her eyes. "Is it really worth it? You're already doing fine." Eric didn't even look up from his phone. "Congrats, babe," he mumbled. "Will they let you work from home?" I said nothing. That evening, I stood in the bathroom brushing my teeth when I caught my own reflection. I looked older than my age, tired, worn. Not because of work, because of them. That's when it started. The quiet changes. I began tracking every single bill I paid. I created a spreadsheet: rent, groceries, water, gas, Rachel's emergency fund, Vivian's hair appointments. Every dollar, every cent. I looked at the numbers and felt sick. I realized I was not just carrying them, I was sinking with them. One morning, I woke up before everyone and sat at the kitchen table just staring at my laptop screen. Then I opened a new bank account. It took less than 10 minutes. I named it Plan B. At work, I accepted the promotion. Mr. Thompson smiled so warmly I nearly cried. "Let me know if you need help making arrangements," he said. "I know sometimes personal life can get in the way." I nodded, holding back tears. He had no idea. From that day, I started saving every bonus, every extra shift, every overtime check. I stopped offering to pay for things at home. Instead, I quietly observed what happened when I didn't step in. The lights got shut off one evening. Rachel screamed. Vivian banged on my door. I shrugged. "Must be a billing issue," I said. Eric asked if I could just cover it. One more time, I said, "I'll think about it." That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in years. They didn't know it yet, but the woman they called a failure was slowly building an exit. $1 at a time. I used to think the worst kind of betrayal came loudly, screaming, slamming doors, broken glass. But I was wrong. It comes in whispers, in low voices behind half-closed doors. It happened on a Wednesday. I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. My head ached, and my chest felt heavy. I just wanted to lie down. As I stepped into the house, I noticed something odd. The living room was quiet. Too quiet. No TV, no laughter. I heard voices coming from the hallway. I paused. The door to Vivian's bedroom was cracked open. Rachel's voice drifted out first. "She's getting bold, acting like she's better than us now. I heard she got a raise or something." Vivian scoffed. "She thinks she's clever, but we'll see how clever she is when Eric files for divorce and she walks out with nothing." My heart dropped. "She's just a wallet, Mom," Rachel said with a snort. "She wouldn't even fight it. She's too soft. Just make her feel guilty. You're good at that." Vivian chuckled. "Don't worry, I've been doing that for years." I stood there frozen, not angry, not shocked, just hollow. I'd cooked for them the night before, paid their electricity bill just last week, and here they were, planning how to use Eric to take everything from me. I backed away slowly, quietly. They didn't hear me. I went straight to my room, closed the door gently, and sat on the edge of the bed. Everything felt still, too still. I had ignored so many signs, the way Vivian dismissed me in front of guests, how Rachel used my things without asking, how Eric always said, "They don't mean it that way." But they did. They meant every word. I pulled out my laptop and opened my Plan B file. It was time to move faster. The next morning, I called a lawyer during my lunch break. A woman named Carla. Her voice was calm and sharp. "I've been financially supporting my husband and his family for nearly 10 years, I told her. "I want to separate, but I want to do it quietly, for now." She didn't ask why. She didn't need to. She simply said, "I've handled worse. I'll guide you." I felt relief. A strange kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. After work, I drove past a quiet apartment complex about 20 minutes away. Nothing fancy. Just small, clean, and peaceful. I asked about a unit, and by the next week, I had signed a lease, under my middle name. It was mine. For the first time in a decade, something belonged only to me. At home, things were unraveling. Vivian complained about the grocery budget shrinking. "Did you forget milk again, Nina?" Rachel whined about the Wi-Fi being slow. "Can you just call the provider already?" Eric was suddenly interested in my mood. "Are you okay? You've been quiet lately." I smiled and said, "Just tired. Long days." But my eyes, they didn't look tired anymore. They looked aware. I stopped cooking extra portions. I bought fewer groceries. I told them the bank had flagged one of my cards and I couldn't use it for a while. They panicked. I watched. Vivian started hinting that maybe I should ask for a loan from work. Rachel started rummaging through my things when she thought I wasn't looking. And Eric, he started being sweet again, bringing me tea, asking about my day, holding my hand. It was too late. I had already handed Carla a full list of my income and what I'd spent on his family for the last 9 years. Every dollar accounted for, every insult burned into memory. I knew now, I wasn't crazy, I wasn't ungrateful, and I wasn't weak. I was a woman who had been used, and I was almost ready to stop pretending I didn't know it. By the time Eric's birthday came around, I had everything in place. A new apartment under my middle name, a bank account only I could access, a lawyer who knew exactly what had been happening behind closed doors, and a folder on my computer filled with receipts, bills, transfer records, and screenshots. 9 years of proof that I had paid for nearly everything, while being called a failure by the very people I kept afloat. But I didn't show any of this. Not yet. At home, I went through the motions like always. Vivian asked for new house slippers. I smiled and said I'd check when I got paid. Rachel hinted about a girls' trip she wanted to take. I told her I'd think about it. Eric wanted steak and wine for his birthday dinner. I bought it without complaint. They were all too comfortable. Too sure I would always be the quiet one. But now, I was simply quiet with a purpose. One evening, I walked into the living room and turned off the TV mid-show. Vivian looked up at me like I'd lost my mind. I need to talk to everyone, I said calmly. They gathered slowly, Eric still chewing food, Rachel texting, Vivian with that bored look on her face. I've been thinking a lot lately, I said, about how this family functions, about who gives and who takes. Eric frowned. Why are you being so dramatic? I'm not, I replied. I'm being clear. They shifted uncomfortably. I've paid this household's bills. I've cooked every meal. I've cleaned, covered rent, and given up promotions and opportunities, all for people who have never once said thank you. Vivian scoffed. So what? You want a medal? Rachel laughed. You act like you're the only one working. I looked at them and said nothing, because I wasn't trying to convince them. I was just preparing them. After that night, I quietly stopped covering the utilities, first the internet, then the heating. When the gas was shut off, Vivian screamed, "What kind of house is this? I couldn't even heat my tea." I shrugged. Must have been a mistake. Rachel banged on my door. "Nina, the Wi-Fi's dead." I smiled gently. Guess the bill didn't go through. Eric came to me, confused. Are we okay financially? You never miss payments. I kissed him on the cheek. I guess even failures mess up sometimes. He didn't know what to say, and I didn't care. Every day that passed, I transferred more into my secret account. Every dollar felt like a brick being added to my future, a future without them. Then, the invitation came. Eric's birthday dinner. A full family gathering. Vivian wanted to invite her sister and cousins, make it a real celebration. She even asked if I could buy the wine. I said yes, gladly, because that night would be the end of my role as their silent servant. The night before the dinner, I stayed up late printing documents. I had the folder ready. A legal separation letter for Eric, a financial statement showing everything I'd paid, a formal eviction notice for Vivian and Rachel, courtesy of my lawyer, all signed, all ready. I placed the folder carefully into my purse. The next morning, I got dressed slowly. I chose a blue dress, simple, elegant. I curled my hair, put on light makeup. When I walked into the dining room that evening, the table was full. Laughter, clinking glasses, plates piled with food I had paid for. Vivian was in her element. Look at my son, 36 and still so youthful, so proud. Rachel had her camera out, snapping pictures. Eric stood to make a toast. To the woman who's always been by my side, my rock, my Nina. Everyone clapped. Vivian chuckled and turned to me. What's it like being a failure, Nina? She asked, raising her glass. Everyone laughed, except me. I just smiled and said, What's it like knowing this failure won't pay your bills anymore? And just like that, everything stopped. The silence that followed my words was deafening. You could have heard a fork drop. Vivian stared at me like I had slapped her across the face. Rachel's jaw was wide open, frozen mid-bite. Eric looked like he didn't know whether to laugh or panic. What do you mean by that? Vivian finally asked, her voice a little shaky. I reached into my purse and slowly pulled out the folder. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't beg for respect like I used to. I simply placed 3 sealed envelopes on the table. 1 in front of Eric, 1 in front of Vivian, 1 in front of Rachel. What is this? Eric asked. Everything, I said. Everything I've been holding in for the past 9 years. You should open it. Vivian snatched her envelope and tore it open. As her eyes scanned the papers, her face turned from confusion to horror. What is this? An eviction notice, she gasped. I nodded. I own the lease, the one you thought Eric was managing. It's been in my name since year 2 of our marriage. I paid the deposit. I paid every month's rent. You and Rachel have 30 days to leave. Rachel screamed, You can't kick us out. We're family. I turned to her calmly. Family doesn't plan to steal everything from someone behind closed doors. Her face went pale. She knew. She knew I had heard. Vivian stood up abruptly. You ungrateful little witch. After everything we've done for you? For me, I said quietly. I paid your mortgage, your phone bill, your daughter's tuition. I cooked your meals, cleaned your dishes, covered your loans, and I got called a failure for it. Eric was silent, still staring at the document in his hands. I never asked you to do all of that, he mumbled. No, Eric, you never asked. You just expected. And you watched your mother and sister tear me down while I kept this family together. He finally looked up at me. You're really doing this? Over some rude comments? I almost laughed. No, I'm doing this because I finally realized I was never a wife in this house. I was a wallet with legs. A few of the extended family members began shifting uncomfortably. Some picked up their plates and quietly left the table. Rachel burst into tears. We have nowhere else to go. You should have thought about that before you plotted to take everything from me, I said coldly. Vivian sat down slowly, stunned into silence. Her voice had finally run out. I turned to Eric one last time. That envelope includes a separation agreement and a full breakdown of every dollar I've spent over the past 9 years. If you choose to contest it, just know, every transfer, every bill, every act of financial support, I have documented. And my lawyer is ready. Eric swallowed hard, the color draining from his face. I stood up and tucked my chair back in. Thank you for dinner, I said softly, and happy birthday. I walked toward the front door, my heels tapping against the tile floor. Nobody followed. The cool night air hit my face like a fresh beginning. And there, parked outside the house, was Mr. Thompson's black sedan. He stepped out and opened the passenger door. Ready? He asked. I nodded. As I slid into the seat, I didn't look back. Not at the house, not at the people I had once broken myself to please. I wasn't angry, I wasn't sad, I was free. The next morning, I woke up in my new apartment, small, quiet, clean. The sun filtered gently through the curtains. No yelling, no doors slamming, no guilt hanging in the air, just peace. For the first time in nearly a decade, I heard my own breathing. I brewed coffee and sat on the little balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching cars pass below. I didn't have to make anyone breakfast. I didn't have to clean up anyone's mess. I didn't belong to anyone anymore. 3 days after the dinner, Eric called. I let it ring. He called again. Then he texted, Can we talk? I didn't know things were that bad. Please. I didn't answer. I forwarded everything to Carla, my lawyer. She had already filed the separation paperwork and was ready to go forward with the financial abuse claim. She said I had a strong case. I did. I had 9 years of receipts. Eric's bank history was dry. He had no proof of contributing anything meaningful to the household. And once I filed for separation, Everything Vivian and Rachel tried to hide started unraveling. Turns out, Rachel had taken out credit cards in Eric's name, cards that I had unknowingly been paying off. Vivian had claimed rent money from Eric's relatives but never passed it along. She pocketed it. They weren't just selfish, they were crooked. 2 weeks later, I sat in a courtroom. Eric stood across from me in a wrinkled shirt and tired eyes. Vivian and Rachel sat behind him, whispering angrily. My lawyer stood tall and firm as she spoke. This woman supported an entire household for 9 years while being emotionally degraded and financially drained. She is not leaving empty-handed. She is reclaiming what was always hers. The judge nodded. It didn't take long. Eric was ordered to vacate the apartment I had paid for. The judge recognized that I was the sole financial contributor. I kept the apartment, the car, most of the savings. Vivian and Rachel tried to argue they were dependents. The judge laughed. You're not her children, he said. You're grown adults who lived off her generosity. They were given 30 days to leave. Vivian exploded in the hallway afterward. You think you've won? You'll come crawling back when you realize no one else will want you. I smiled calmly. The difference is, I don't need anyone to want me. I want myself. I walked away as she screamed behind me. In the weeks that followed, I moved my things into the new place, slowly, carefully, thoughtfully. Mr. Thompson offered me the Atlanta position again. This time, I accepted. It came with a full relocation package, better pay, and most importantly, a fresh start. Before I left, I hosted a small goodbye dinner at my new apartment. Just me, 2 coworkers I trusted, and Mr. Thompson. We laughed. We shared stories. No one insulted me. No one took me for granted. When I raised my glass, I said, to learning that silence isn't always kindness, and that peace is worth walking through fire for. They all clapped. After the move, I took time for myself. I visited art galleries. I bought books. I redecorated my space with colors I liked. One afternoon, while walking through a quiet park, I saw a mother yelling at her daughter. The girl looked down at her shoes. Silent, small. And I thought, don't let them teach you that love means silence, because that's what I had to unlearn. Love should never feel like being invisible. I don't know where Eric, Vivian, or Rachel ended up. I didn't ask. I didn't care. All I know is this. I'm no longer the woman they laughed at. I'm the woman who walked away with everything, including her dignity. And that, to me, is the best kind of victory.